Hello and welcome to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel and welcome to the Champions League. It is going down at the San Siro tomorrow between Inter and Barca, and the reason here I really wanted to do a tactical preview is because I think we are going to see a completely different Inter side than we saw at the Camp Nou. At the Camp Nou, they simply didn't turn up. We've got to be ready for them tomorrow night, especially away from home where we haven't found it easy. But not only that, we can't become too preoccupied with Inter, because we've got to make sure our team too is absolutely right to benefit us, what we can do going forward. All of those things analysed in today's video. Let's get on with it. But we are first of all going to start right here with the hosts Inter and basically look at how they lined up at the Camp Nou. Nearly 2 weeks ago it was now at the Camp Nou. It was a comfortable win for us on the night and I never ever felt troubled by this Inter side. And you can see here they set up in a sort of 4-2-3-1 formation. They tried to flood the midfield but it simply didn't work. They had no control whatsoever in these kind of areas. Borja Valero simply didn't work because what he was supposed to do, he was supposed to link midfield and attack, but the problem was Mauro Icardi here was completely isolated all night long. There was nothing that went into him. He couldn't make the ball stick. These players here were not close enough to him. I don't think Candreva had much of an impact out wide. I think this whole right down side really with D'Ambrosio and Candreva didn't really work, and that's why in tomorrow's game I believe they're going to make 4 changes. Now, reading between the lines in the Italian media and looking at what Inter have done very recently and the players they have coming back, these are the 4 changes I think Inter are going to make in tomorrow's game. They're going to start with Handanovic. De Vrij here is going to come in alongside Skriniar. Vashaliko, of course, is going to come in at right back, a much better player than D'Ambrosio, I feel. They got Politano on this right-hand side here, who's a really good outlet for them. But the main player who's going to be returning and will change for me the entire landscape of Inter's team, Raja Nainggolan. He is going to be Inter's link between midfield and attack. It's going to be his job here to break things up in midfield, to bring the ball out, to carry the ball at the San Siro and find Icardi. Bring Icardi into the game, because at the Camp Nou, they simply did not do that. Nainggolan is going to be there in this kind of number 10 role, and that is going to be his sole purpose in this game. Bring Icardi into the game, bring Perisic into the game, bring Politano into the game. Everything here is going to revolve around Raja Nainggolan, and these players here, Vecino and Brozovic, they're just going to protect that midfield and really cover the defence. But it's going to be those 4 on the attack, and we really have to make sure we get it right. Which brings me swiftly on to our starting lineup for this Inter game, and that's the big question. Are we going to see the same team once again that played at the Camp Nou against Inter? Because this here is how we lined up against Inter at the Camp Nou. It was very similar to what we've seen really for the last several games. Arthur was brilliant in this midfield role. Rafinha got the goal. Suarez was impressive. But the big question is, are we going to see it again? We saw this lineup against Inter. We saw the exact same lineup against Real Madrid, and we saw the exact same lineup again against Rayo Vallecano when it didn't really work out. Now I'm feeling something has to happen. Something in this team has to give. I personally do not think that Lionel Messi is going to be risked in this game. I think he might be on the bench at a push. I think we're taking him to Italy to give us the option to scare Inter Milan, a bit of psychology in there, but I don't think we're going to risk Messi in this kind of game. So at some other point in this team, something has to give. Now, there's 2 completely different ways that we could go about this. Number 1 is a straight swap. Rafinha for Ousmane Dembele, and suddenly your team there in the final third is transformed into a much more dynamic 3. It's a real trio there. A lot of pace with Dembele, a lot of width as well. He can get a lot of advantages there, exploiting the space that Inter will leave behind, because remember, they'll be at home. They'll want to be on the offensive. They'll be pressing. They'll be getting in our faces. There will be spaces in behind at times for somebody like Dembele who could exploit them, and then you keep the rest of the team very much consistent. You've got your back 4 there, which has been the back 4 now for a number of games. Busquets, Arthur and Rakitic in midfield for your control and for your defensive awareness. But like I say, Dembele there included in that front 3, it changes the dynamic. Because, you know, a lot of people right now are 50-50 with regards to Ousmane Dembele. Some people want him to play, some people don't. But I just want to tell you guys the one thing that I'm really worried about if we don't include somebody like Dembele in this game. If we start with the same team that we've played against Inter, played against Real and then played against Rayo, this is what could happen. And in the back of my my mind, this is what I'm so worried about heading to the San Siro to play Serie A opposition. You look at the inclusion of Nainggolan and what he can do in this team. He'll make forward runs, he can get the ball in here, he can try and release Icardi, but what Inter will do is they will really put the pressure on. There will be periods in this game where they really do go forward, they really pen us back, and they really do attack. They'll get high at the pitch and they'll really try and put the pressure on. And that worries me, simply because if you don't play somebody like Ousmane Dembele, we could get into a very similar situation like we did against Roma. You think back to that Champions League game, right throughout the 90 minutes, where we could not get out. They would have the ball there and they were simply keeping it in these areas, moving players forward, a lot of runners from everywhere on the pitch, and we couldn't get out. There was no release, there was no out ball. Suarez doesn't really have the pace to get us out of trouble and really get us at the pitch. The same goes for Rafinha, the same goes for Coutinho. If you don't play Dembele or somebody of that nature in these situations, I worry that it could happen again. That Inter, with the confidence they have at home right now, with the confidence they've built up really over the last few weeks, they could hurt us if we don't have that out ball, if we can't get out, and we could succumb to the pressure. Now this next option here is just me thinking completely outside of the box and just looking really at a way to get both Arturo Vidal and Ousmane Dembele in this team, but not only that, but also to keep it nice and compact against a team that can definitely hurt us from the players that we just talked about. And what it would be here is just getting that midfield and also the attack as narrow as you possibly can, simply because that's what we've been doing anyway. Rafinha and Coutinho in the last few games have been playing really narrow. Even at times against Rayo, we saw Rafinha in this area here playing as almost a second striker to Luis Suarez, when that is simply not his role at all. I think Dembele is much more suited to that kind of role, simply because of that pace. You can play off Suarez, you can get in behind Suarez, you can get out wide. Dembele is a much better creative player, I feel, than Rafinha is. And what you would have then is packing that midfield and finding a way to include this man Arturo Vidal, simply because he's played in Serie A, he's gone to the San Siro before, he's a real player, I feel, who comes up nicely against a team like Inter. He can be physical, he can show that intensity, he'll get involved in the hustle and bustle, he can be aggressive, and what you will get is him coming out of there and winning those physical battles alongside Rakitic here in midfield. But you've also got the advantage there of having Arthur, having Busquets there, just dropping in deep and controlling the ball when we really need it, because that's important too. You've got to win that physical battle, but you've also got to have players in there who can control the ball. And that's the thing about Arturo Vidal in this kind of role here in midfield. It's not just about that physicality, he's not just a battering ram in that midfield, he's also very good on the ball. And not only that, but he could also give you something going forward. If you are only playing with the two, with Suarez here, with Dembele out wide, you know that Vidal can make those runs to support Suarez in the box. He can make late runs into the area, just like we saw against Real Madrid where he got his goal. He can be effective as well going forward and providing something in attack too. And by Suarez, Dembele, Vidal, Rakitic, Arthur, Busquets really compressing the middle of the pitch, they're attracting so much attention from Inter. What you get then is a lot of space for Alba and Sergi Roberto to get up and down, really exploit the wider areas, and we've seen recently so many chances have come from those areas. And I just think with that final formation that I showed you there are a lot of advantages, especially in this midfield area, simply because against Nainggolan, we're not going to be able to go 1 versus 1, and if you've got Arthur dropping in there with Sergio Busquets, suddenly you've got avenues to really play around Nainggolan, and suddenly you're through then to Vecino and Brozovic, and suddenly as well, you've got Vidal here, you've got Rakitic here, you have got a lot of options in that midfield to get around. There's going to be an additional man. It's 4 versus 3 every single time, unless you start to bring some of the Inter fullbacks into the equation, which is exactly what we want. Maybe Vishalico in here will drop in, provide some additional cover. Maybe Asamo, who can play centrally, will think he can help out. And then suddenly, it's Perisic against Roberto, and Roberto can get in these spaces here. And likewise, once Vishalico is drawn into that central area where there's a lot of things happening here, suddenly Jordi Alba has got the pace, he's got the know-how to find those runs, and we could be in behind. And I really do believe this game right here at the San Siro, it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. We're going to be talking a lot about that, a lot about Inter's form, a lot about what we can expect really from the kind of team that we've seen them play in Serie A in recent weeks. We're going to be talking about all that in the match preview, but I really do believe this is going to be a tight game. It's going to be a really tight game. We're going to need to be at our best, and this is a massive away test. We haven't done well away from home this season, but now is the time to put that right. A massive European night. We thrive on these kind of occasions, and I just think in that midfield, right across the board, with Dembele up top, we have to get this right. Valverde has got to be brave, he's got to be bold, he has to get that selection right and the tactics on the night, because we do not want a repeat of that Roma game. So that is basically where we stand with regards to Inter against Barca from the tactical perspective. We are going to be talking about a lot more, like I say, coming up very shortly in the match preview. Thank you, as always, guys, for joining me. I really do appreciate you watching the videos, for getting involved, and your constant support. I will see you soon with the next upload. It's coming right up. But until then, as always, Visca El Barça!